Your taste for alcohol is older than your species, older than farming, older than fire. 10,000 years ago, strangers who couldn't even speak the same language sat around a fire and passed a clay cup of something sour and fermented, and slowly the fear between them melted into something like friendship. We still do it today. To make friends with a stranger, we hand them a drink that blurs their vision and slows their brain, and somehow, that's the part that works. To find the first drinkers, you don't start in a bar, you start in a tree. So, a tree. Picture one of your very distant ancestors, millions of years ago, long before anything you'd call human. It's a small, furry, wide-eyed thing living in the branches, and its entire life revolves around one question: is this fruit ripe yet? Here's the trick. Ripe fruit falls to the ground, and on the ground, in the heat, it starts to rot, which is really just a polite word for ferment. The sugars turn to alcohol, so the riper and boozier the fruit, the stronger it smells, and that smell became a giant flashing arrow that said, "Food, over here, come and get it." So our ancestors followed their noses to the fermented fruit and ate it and caught a little buzz and felt great. And the ones who could handle that buzz without falling out of the tree got a free meal. Evolution quietly weeded the lightweights out of the gene pool. And this isn't just a theory, we can see it in your DNA. Around 10 million years ago, one of our ape ancestors evolved a single tiny tweak to a gene and suddenly became about 40 times better at processing alcohol. That mutation got passed down to apes, to early humans, and eventually to you, which means the reason you can enjoy a drink tonight is a survival upgrade your ancestors earned falling out of trees. Let that sink in. Before we had language, before we had fire, we already had a taste for it. We were basically drinking before we were even people. Okay, so our ape ancestors stumbled onto alcohol by accident. But there's a huge leap between eating fermented fruit off the ground and actually making the stuff on purpose. So when did humans stop waiting for nature and start brewing? The oldest hard evidence takes us to a village in China, about 9,000 years ago. Inside ancient pottery, scientists found the chemical fingerprints of a drink made from rice, honey, and fruit. Nobody needs a honey cocktail. That's not survival. That's a recipe. Somebody was doing this because they liked it. But China only tells us when we were making alcohol. There's a place that hints at something much bigger, that alcohol wasn't just something we made. It might be the reason we built everything. It's called Göbekli Tepe. It's in modern-day Turkey. It's around 11,000 years old, and it's the oldest known temple on Earth, built by hunter-gatherers who didn't even have farming yet. Massive carved stone pillars, hauled and raised by people who supposedly hadn't settled down. And digging there, archaeologists found something unexpected. Enormous stone tubs, some big enough to hold over 100 liters, with chemical traces that hint at something remarkable. They may have been brewing beer. Now sit with what that means. The story we all learned is simple. Humans invented farming to get food. Food let us settle down. And settling down gave us civilization. Bread first, everything else after. But Göbekli Tepe flips that on its head. What if people didn't gather to farm bread, but to drink? What if the promise of a feast and a good buzz pulled scattered strangers together, made them haul giant stones, and kept them coming back, until one day they looked around and realized they'd accidentally built civilization? In other words, maybe we didn't settle down because we were hungry. Maybe we settled down because we wanted a drink. And once civilization did get going, alcohol didn't fade into the background. It ran the place. Take ancient Egypt. When they built the pyramids, the workers weren't paid in coins or gold. They were paid in beer, around 4 to 5 liters every single day. That was the salary. Imagine showing up to work and getting handed a bucket of beer instead of a paycheck. And this wasn't the watered-down stuff we drink today. Ancient Egyptian beer was thick, low in alcohol, and packed with calories, basically liquid bread. For a guy dragging limestone blocks across the desert all day, that beer wasn't a treat. It was breakfast, lunch, and payday, all in one cup. So by the time humans were building wonders of the world, a single drink was already doing the work of a paycheck and a meal at the same time, which raises the real question, the one underneath all of this. Why? Why does this one substance have such a grip on us? Alcohol is, objectively, kind of terrible for you. It's a toxin. It makes you clumsy, foggy, and worse at almost everything you try to do. So why would evolution and every human culture on Earth keep choosing it? The answer sits right behind your forehead. There's a part of your brain that keeps you in check, the responsible one, the manager, the voice that says, "Don't tell that story, don't dance, don't say what you're really thinking." Alcohol turns that voice down, and it turns out that's exactly the point. When you quiet the part of the brain that keeps you guarded, strangers stop feeling like threats. Walls come down. People relax, laugh, open up. Scientists have basically confirmed it. A couple of drinks makes people more social, more trusting, more willing to bond with someone they just met. Think about what a superpower that was for early humans. We survive by cooperating, but cooperation needs trust. And trust between strangers is hard. Alcohol was a shortcut, a chemical handshake, a way to take a group of suspicious, guarded, heavily armed strangers and turn them, for one evening, into friends. That shared drink wasn't just a party. It was social technology, one of the first tools we ever built for turning them into us, which is kind of beautiful, honestly. And it's why almost every important human moment, weddings, funerals, deals, reunions, still somehow ends with everybody holding a glass, which brings us back to the question we started with. So when did humans start drinking? The honest answer is, we don't really know, and we probably never will. The first cup was never written down. It rotted, it spilled, it disappeared. What we do know is that by the time humans started recording anything at all, anywhere on Earth, they were already drinking. It was already ancient. It was already everywhere. And that's the strange thread running through all of it. A furry ancestor sniffing out fermented fruit in a tree, hunter-gatherers hauling stones for the promise of a feast, a wedding toast somewhere in the world tonight. It's all the same impulse. The same quiet reach for something that softens the edges, drops the guard, and pulls us a little closer together. The urge to step outside our own heads for a while, to quiet the manager in there, to feel, just for an evening, a little less alone. We treat that urge as a weakness, a vice, something to apologize for. But it might be one of the most human things about us, the same instinct that once turned strangers into tribes and tribes into civilizations. So next time you raise a glass with people you love or people you've only just met, remember what you're actually holding. Not just a drink, a 10-million-year-old habit, a little bit of courage, and one of the first tools our species ever found for turning strangers into friends. We didn't invent drinking to escape being human. We may have invented it to become human in the first place. So, cheers to that.